much. All right. I think I'm good. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the New Media Show. My name is Todd Cochran. Of course, I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Rob Greenlee. Rob, how you doing?
Doing terrific, Todd.
And, and you
I feel like it's
sound
a fresh new day here, Todd.
and you sound much, much, much better. I don't know what you did.
Well, I have a whole new computer set up here too. I'm not even on a Surface anymore. So
Well,
yeah.
that shouldn't affect your audio flow, but you sound better.
I don't know. Something is definitely improved. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
but one thing that we've learned is it is a pain in the butt to do Clubhouse correctly and not causing chaos on the show.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So we kind of backed off on that for this week. So if you're listening to this as a podcast, just know that the Clubhouse is not connected at this point, and we're just kind of reevaluating because it felt like we were kind of getting away from a little bit of the core of what is why Todd and I do this show every week. I mean, to some degree, it's great to have outside voices and have questions and stuff, but it does get in the way of just you and I, Todd,
yeah.
talking.
And the last show was an absolute wreck. I had bandwidth issues. And matter of fact, there's a new router coming. I'm determined, at least I think, that my less than 1 year old Netgear router is the issue. It's been dropping out. It slows down. I reset it. It locks up. So there's a new router coming. Today we are up and running just fine, which is a miracle. But I had a long discussion with the cable company, and they did find some provisioning issues again with my modem. So hopefully we won't drop speed. And then what I'm ultimately going to do here, Rob, is something I'm going to experiment connectivity-wise. Currently, and I guess you guys don't care about this, the TriCaster's plugged into a professional switch. It's 1 gig. It's managed. It's really a whopper of a switch, and then that switch is connected into the router. All kinds of speed tests. I think 500 speed tests later, there is definitely some loss from the TriCaster to the modem. So the new modem the new router has 8 ports. So I'm going to run a direct line from the TriCaster to the.
Oh.
So then I can set quality service on that port and make sure the TriCaster always has the highest priority on that port, which I don't know if it's going to help or not, but we definitely had, and of course the screen was going down, going up. I was completely, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't publish the last episode.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
The
No.
period at all? You didn't publish the episode at
No,
all?
I didn't publish it all. So
Okay. I didn't notice.
I
All right.
think we will leave that one to the archive.
Well, without an archive might be the thing.
Right. So yes, we're here. And here's something we can do, and it just as as an aside, is we can do Clubhouse but not have people come up. We can just talk to them. And I know that doesn't fit well in the Clubhouse model, but if we want to use Clubhouse and slowly reintegrate it, we should have it as a situation where we talk to everybody and they don't talk to us.
Yeah, or maybe we schedule.
Yeah,
guests
schedule something right. And
through it.
because you were having to ride the levels, and I actually think you were riding the USB levels the other day, not the phone levels. So on the on your Roadcaster, because I got some comments that when you were turning the Clubhouse down, that my volume was going down from not in Clubhouse, but so maybe what we should do then is maybe you weren't on the right rider at that time.
Well, I think it was maybe the output volume of the phone, right?
Maybe.
So
maybe.
Yeah.
So
it could have just been as simple as that.
So anyway, doing Clubhouse well and trying to do everything else well
is complicated.
Yeah, and I was really Wednesday. I left the show saying frankly, I said, fuck it.
Yeah, and then I sent you that tweet. We're not going to do Clubhouse on
And what
Saturday.
was my
And
response?
yeah, it was agreed.
So we'll play around with it, but it's a it's an experiment. I think the experiment went sideways. We heard from all of you a little bit, complaining a little. So here we are, and
Well, and the whole debate rages continuously. I see it in LinkedIn and other places about whether or not Clubhouse is going to, survive, and whether or not they're going to be the dominant player as you
well,
look to the future in this
that's
social audio space,
that's
with Discord
yeah.
and all these other ones that are jumping into the fray now and playing around with, the fireside chat thing that's coming up too, which I haven't been tremendously impressed with.
Oh, good,
What
good.
I've seen so
I'm
far.
glad.
Right. So,
Don't, and I wouldn't give them feedback either.
well, I'm not thinking that it's I think that the idea is fine. It's just the fact that people are calling in from their cell phones makes it go a little bit sideways.
And,
I think is what it comes down to.
well, and what it really is we saw this wide variety of audio quality. And if you can have a guest that's got at least some semblance of good background, maybe on their earbuds versus speaking into the speaker, I think all that is super, super critical because, to be honest with you, it's some of those audio conversations were horrible.
Right.
You know.
And I think that we're trying to set, a quality bar that's pretty high here.
And we blew it.
I mean, we definitely invested in the equipment
Right.
that's needed
Right.
to do a high quality audio program. So, it feels disappointing I know I've been going through that the last few weeks. Feeling disappointed because I thought I was upgrading everything.
Well, whatever
Right.
you're doing today, see, I think what it did is anytime you get a new piece of gear and you are actually integrating between,
Right.
it takes a while to figure it out. And
There are so many settings, especially, well, I think it's safe to say in any computer that there's volume settings that are in the operating system, and then there's
right.
there's these, I got a new Roadcaster, and there's tons of settings in that.
Yep.
I mean, a lot more than what it appears on the surface. So I think a lot of people get these Roadcasters and they just turn them on and start using them without really doing a bunch of heavy testing.
But most people are not integrating Skype, and so here's the balance.
Especially these days.
Here's the balance of what I have found on any system, and this is a good discussion. Is you always get the mixer where you want it. That's first. You get you should set your levels for each channel, get the mixer where it is, then you plug it into whatever source you're going to be going to. Let's say it's Skype. So then you connect the USB cable. Then once that's done, then you don't touch the Roadcaster, you touch Skype or Zoom, and then you adjust the microphone input output levels there. And that's what I do here is, I don't touch the mixer very much. And I mostly adjust right on Skype, set the levels in Skype where it needs to be. And that has usually proven to be a good strategy. And I think the same thing, and maybe, again, too, if you also think about it, you're connecting via USB to the computer. So there's really no audio connection. So you're really dependent on that computer and its drivers to have the ability to change the levels. And you're on a Windows machine, every computer is different on how it interfaces with a USB audio device. So you just have to make sure that the audio levels in and out on that particular, and that makes you go, you got to get into the profile. You got to get into audio settings and play around there. On a Mac, same thing. You got to get into audio settings and you got to set the slider. So
Yeah,
But
like on this new Dell desktop that I had, I went in and I looked at it, and it looked like that the Rodecaster was trying to connect to two different audio drivers on the computer. So I had to disconnect that. Plus my camcorder that I'm using for the video here, it
right.
was inputting audio into the system too.
Well, that's
So
right. It's an audio, so you have to pick the right audio channel.
right, so yeah, so I had to go in and disable some drivers,
Oh,
just so it was very focused on one driver coming from the Rodecaster
yeah. So it would not
into the system.
right. So it wouldn't pick the webcam.
Right.
Yeah. So this is, this is all things that, I hate literally touching anything
Yeah.
because, and when I first started podcasting, my kids were little, and I set the mixer up, had it beside the table, all nice and good. Well, a little 4-year-old or 5-year-old come over there and look at those knobs, and the next thing I know, you know, they were
Yeah.
completely adjusted. So I took a
Yeah.
picture of the mixer when it was set up to know where it was, and that kind of worked. And then ultimately, what I did is I put a piece of cardboard over it and taped, basically made a lid so that they would have to work really, really hard to get to those knobs and buttons and stuff
Hmm.
to change them. If you have a mixer and you've got kids that are messing with that stuff, there's companies out there now that sell covers for mixers and covers for
Right.
the Roadcaster, or make a cover.
Well, you
Uh,
just get a cloth or something and put it
well,
over it, but
I
that
have
may not be good enough, right?
here
Because
in
they can
this,
still walk on it.
and I don't know why this thing's kind of stiff because it's been folded, but for
Right.
this is even here in the studio where no one is messing around with anything.
Right.
I use that purely as dust covers too.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
that's
because
true.
the Roadcaster, if you've got a dusty environment, then that dust is working its way down into those sliders, and at some point, they're going to start crinkling, is what I like to call the word. So
Right.
you got to keep it clean, and you got to be, when you clean it though, then you're messing with the sliders, so that becomes a bit of a problem. But
Yeah, and
uh,
if you don't, one of the things you can do with all your audio gear is get like a little can of compressed air
yeah,
and then just kind of blow them out,
yep,
you know,
that's
which I've done that plenty of times. I mean, actually, you should probably do that with your computers too,
true,
if
true.
you
And
have any.
but
Yeah,
this laptop now primarily stays here because I've got a computer. I took one of the old Mac Minis
right.
to the house. Um, I just put the lid down when I'm done with it, just to make sure
Hmm.
that it's not collecting dust. So I think that all these things, as people start to do more video, start to more integration with more platforms,
Yeah.
test, 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 test. And you and I didn't test a lot. You just kind of set up and we went, and that was probably a bad idea. But then, yes, Wednesday was a perfect storm. My internet was sucky,
Hmm.
and Skype seemed to be good, but boy, the stream was just falling over. I mean, it'd stay online for 60 seconds and die. So knock on wood, we're good here. Mike says I take a picture of my mixer and ham radio gear to see where the knobs are supposed to be,
Right. No,
and
that's
he
a good idea too.
says Roadcaster has multi-channel or stereo, which is two drivers.
Right.
So he said Roadcaster out of the box is better than most other setups. What you plug into, you have to mess with Skype, Zoom, whatever. So and again,
Yeah.
someone's saying, Rob, you're sounding quiet on my side, but you've made adjustments. I can probably now turn you up because you sound good to me
Right.
here. So don't change anything on your side.
Okay. Yeah,
And
I'm about maxed out as high
yes,
as I can go on
so
my side.
so don't
So
change anything on your side, and I can change you up on my side now
yeah,
because you sound
exactly.
good. So anyway, there's a lot going. I'm horrible today. I've said anyway about 80 times. There should be
Well,
like
plus
a
I'm also augmenting my audio with a shotgun mic too. That's right in front of me.
oh, that's interesting.
So
So are you running two channels?
yeah. Well, I've got my SM7B as my primary, and then I just am augmenting my audio with a little shotgun mic, so you can kind of see it if I slide it over a little bit, it comes into the camera view. But yeah, just I was playing around with it, and the audio sounded a little bit better if I had a little bit of the shotgun mic coming in, because this this SM7B is so bassy, it's so low frequency, but the shotgun mic has higher frequencies, so it picks up the higher frequencies of my voice and adds it to the audio stream. So that was my thinking. It's like half of the volume that the SM7B is, so it's just adding to it. And if I go off the SM7B a little bit, the shotgun mic picks me up. So the other thing that I need to do in this room too is sound buffer the room by getting up more pictures and stuff and more stuff on the walls behind me.
Yeah.
And it will cause less of an echo effect in my shotgun mic. Because what I would love to do is do more with my shotgun mic, because my shotgun mic is only like a foot away from my mouth.
Yeah.
So you can see it, right?
And it does sound better with
slide
this.
Slide it in right there. You can see it right there.
But I will say now, because you were rumbling me before,
right
now I've got you maxed out here. Now what I would do is go back to the mixer, turn you up 3 or 4 dB, and then come back here and readjust. Yeah. Right. Because I'm not hearing the that we were getting before. You're a little bit quiet, definitely. But now it's just because I had turned you down, trying to get rid of that rumble.
Right. So, rumble.
See, no, you sound perfect today. I mean, really, it sounds perfect. It's where we need to be. So don't change anything.
Don't change anything on my end.
Right? Good. Yeah, you leave that good. You leave that good.
Okay.
But so I had to laugh at the Pod News folks on April Fool's Day.
Yeah, no, I saw that one too.
He went all in.
He did.
And if you
certainly did, and he included us in there too.
Yeah, and if you didn't listen to the podcast, you got to listen to the daily podcast. If you haven't listened to any of Gridland's daily podcast on his newsletter, that's the one you should. If you want a good laugh, go listen to that one. Because he says some stuff in there that he doesn't say in the newsletter that's even more comical. So,
yeah. Well, it's good that he has a good sense of humor. I like that about James.
We talked about it, and we've done stuff in the past, and I don't know. We didn't do anything this year per se, and
I didn't do anything either. Yeah.
And that's
in some ways the whole April Fool's thing is a little bit annoying, and because it's like sometimes people get so good at those April Fool's jokes that you don't know if they're pulling your leg or not. That's the thing.
And I do want to mention today, sadly.
Yeah.
And
this is a loss in this podcast.
Yeah, we had a loss in the podcasting space on the 31st. David Phillips, one of the co-founders of Podcast Detroit, suddenly passed away, and the Podcast Detroit team. I don't know if they host exclusively with us or if they spread the wealth, but they've got 100 or some shows hosted with us. So they're in a bit of panic, because the production team and passwords and everything. So, if you're part of the Podcast Detroit family, don't worry. We're talking with the co-founder and the potential new person that's going to be coming on and doing the production work. But this is something that's I've said for a very, very long time. When I was in the Navy and I was after 9/11, right after 9/11, I wrote a death doc, and the death doc had passwords, count numbers, not only a letter to my kids and family members, but it had all that pertinent data. Now it was password. It was a password controlled file, a Windows doc. Or Microsoft Word doc at the time. That was the thing, and I mailed hard copies of that to my mom so that there was a paper copy of it as well in an envelope, not to be opened unless something happened. And then in that in that envelope was a USB stick with a digital copy of that media with the password put on the printed doc.
Right.
You have to, for your family's sake, if it's just, this is just a personal thing, you got to make sure that if you take care of the bills and the banking and the insurance, and you're the one that has maybe a LastPass or a password manager on your computer, you need to make that login data is the difference between hell and less hell, because
Right.
you can transition. You don't have to worry about, is insurance paid, is all this digital stuff. So make sure that you are preparing your digital life so that if something happens to you, especially if you're in a business. So they're having a little bit of struggle on some of the password stuff. Now we're able to reset passwords and, from the hosting side and take care of that for them. But I think there's more.
Right.
And web logons. Because what happens if your email's locked at the time and you don't know the password to a site, and you have to do a reset, and that reset email goes to your Gmail that you're now dead, that is locked, that no one can get in.
Right.
Same thing. I have my Gmail passwords in LastPass.
Right.
And I have a document of what that password is.
Well, that's probably the key right there, is a LastPass account that has all of your logins
Right,
in
all of it.
And all you have to do is make sure that whoever gets that document knows the LastPass password.
That's right. And if you change it to update it,
Right.
and if the LastPass allows you to store a lot of stuff. You can put documents in there. And I'm not saying that's the service to use, because anything can go sideways, but at least have something in mind.
Right. Yeah,
so,
it's smart.
So I think what we've got here is, the co-founder was basically the sales guy. He was the one that was doing the sales, and David was the tech side. So they're going to be okay, and of course the heart goes out to the family and his wife and kids and extended friends.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So condolences to David Phillips and the family, and of course the Podcast Detroit family. So
yeah.
Let's see here.
That's a fate that all of us face at some point in our futures. So,
it's I've always said there's a road marker ahead. And you might be at the 1 mile marker, and you're not going to hit the 99 mile marker until you're 99 years old, but at some point your marker's going to come due, and you're not going past that point. And there's a lot of things that affect one's life, but I'm a true kind of believer that your mile marker has already been set. You just don't know where it's at, and you're not getting by that. So kind of morbid discussion here, but yeah, as humans, until they figure out how to regenerate us or clone us, we're all destined for a box or an urn.
Wow, that's a discussion to bring the show to a high point.
Yes, indeed. We've all suffered family losses. There's hardly anyone that's probably to the show that hasn't suffered a loss, and it's very, very hard. So, but in a digital age,
especially over this past year, a lot of course, people have been dying forever. But
yeah,
I think it's been brought to the fore over the last year, probably more so.
But Rob, there's no flu.
Yeah, well.
Wow,
something. That is true. It's true. I had the flu when I was at Podcast Movement in LA back in February, and I haven't been sick since.
You probably had COVID and you just didn't know it.
Actually, I went in for my annual physical, and they told me I didn't have any antibodies. So.
Oh, that's interesting. I haven't been able to get.
have it.
I haven't been able to get an antibody test, so it's but yeah, here no there. All right. Well, what else? Let's get off the morbidity
Train.
train.
Right? That's a dead end track, right?
Oh
Yeah.
man, in more ways than one. So what else has been going on here? And of course, if we didn't, we could probably talk a little bit because we didn't publish the last show about your guys' acquisition. So I think we can rehash that. So you guys went out and
Sure.
funded $25 million. I thought you guys were putting like 21 million in revenue in these. Seems like you guys would have a full bank account. So 25 million on the funding of this new buying an ad serving platform.
Yeah, I mean it's been an announced direction the company has been pursuing as a advertising monetization strategy. So that's what we're doing, and we've also mentioned out there that we're working on a creation strategy as well.
Yeah.
So that's all been talked about over the last year and all of our calls and things like that with investors and things. So it's been out there, and that's what you look at like an Oxbus or whatever, and you can kind of see that starting to unfold. And so this is just an extension on that. Todd, like you've been working in the advertising business for a long time in podcasting,
Yep.
and so has Lipson. But the thing is, Lipson has just been doing it with a small number of partners in the platform for, gosh, probably 15 years now.
Right.
So
right.
it's nothing new to the company. It's just we're looking for ways to expand it and to get it advertising into the hands of more shows that are interested in advertising.
Right.
So this is one pathway that we can pursue that can hopefully move us in that direction.
Well, 2 acquisitions, so you guys got your hands full. So with that integration,
they're both reasonably small acquisitions from a staff perspective, and they do kind of establish 2 new divisions in the company. It isn't like we're trying to merge too much of this technology together. So I think it's a little bit of an easier transition than I think what I went through between Spreaker and Blog Talk Radio back in those days, where you were really had a lot of team members you were trying to integrate, the technology you were trying to integrate a lot. So I think it's a little easier. So, but I think it's needed in the market. I think that the other thing that's really needed in the market is marketing support for shows. Shows are just hammering us. I'm sure they are you too, Todd. And I know you put together a program to help podcasters with some parts of this question too, but trying to drive people to get more listeners, get more audience, to help them produce shows. That's kind of where the market is right now.
Well, that's the number one thing I hear again and again and again and again and again is grow the show, grow the show.
Yeah, it's like a hammer hitting you on the head.
Every call, that's the number one thing.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
and I think what it really boils down to too is, how do I want to say this? There's not a reality check, and many of the times when people are exploring podcasting, there's not this, hey, this is going to take this is going to take work, unless you're a famous person. So I think that even successful YouTubers are expecting immediate success in podcasting. They often don't find it. And it's just, I think we all know it's a different medium. It's a personal medium. It's people want to get to know the person. They want to trust them. It's got to create good content as well. But I think some of the big companies out there have really caused some unrealistic expectations, because they launch with 7 shows. They do, just a small series, and they get 25 million downloads. But what they don't realize, there's 20 other or 30 or 40 other shows that are driving traffic to this thing. They're intermixing it within content with their own network. They're doing promotional clips within the content. So they got a full blown marketing strategy that's behind it. They got a PR team. But I got a PR notice the other day from somebody, and I had to ask. That it was saying that such and such so is doing this, and they had 25 million downloads last year. And I'm like, really? Who?
Wow.
Who?
Yeah.
Who? And my response was, measured by who? That's what I said to the PR company. And they replied with the company that did the measuring, and I'm like, to myself internally, I'm like, yeah, okay, I know how they count. So
they count everything.
And this wasn't this wasn't an LA thing. So let's just
okay, that's good.
But yeah, so I'm like, okay, great, 25 million downloads. So was it 25 or was it 5, or was it 2.5?
Right.
Exactly. So.
But it looked like 25, Todd.
Hell, Rob, we can say this show had 25 million downloads.
We know that's not true.
No.
It definitely dipped probably over the last few weeks.
Yeah,
too.
I think people are irritated with us. But I think that it's a different ball game for big companies. And because 97, I keep raising the number. You said 95, but now 97% of the podcasting space is independent content creators.
Right.
Those indie shows want to grow, and some shows do see some decent growth. They do good jobs. They get 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 downloads per episode pretty quickly out of the gate within 30 days, and they grow. Mm-hmm. I had someone really, really, really get mad at me and they were really like, you don't know what you're talking about type of thing. When I basically told a podcaster that maybe you should focus on building audience instead of focus on taking advertising when your download numbers are below 1,000 per episode. I said, you really, and I just laid it out what they would get with a normal campaign. And of course, the pylons came from, that's almost like, sounds like Klingons, pylons. The pylons came, I'm going to use that word, pylons. The pylons came and said, oh, it's, you can get $600 an episode, because of this. And I responded, I'm like, what type of content is it? Who are you reaching? Is this niche or is this broad? And it was a broad show. So I'm thinking, if people are having success getting $500 or $600 per episode for broad content, then I want those advertisers, because they don't care about performance, because they're not getting performance out of that. So, and for how long? And that's another thing I always ask is, how long did they advertise at that level? Did they advertise a month, 2 episodes? And so,
well, that's kind of brand advertising, right?
Well, it wasn't this. I don't know. They didn't say.
It's the same kind of ideology, right?
Right.
It's trying to build brand awareness versus trying to build conversion, right? So there's two kinds of advertisers.
Yeah, but my thought has always been, I want to keep an advertiser around for a year. I don't want to do a one and done.
Right.
So trying to set some and boy, people get pissed when I start talking about realities of, every situation is different. Every show is different. If you get a show that has a benefactor, look at No Agenda. They have people giving $1,000 an episode, writing checks for $1,000.
Wow. I wish we had that problem, Todd.
I wish we did too. But they do a 2.5 hour.
What can we do about that?
But
Todd?
they
what
do.
Can
but
we do about that?
Oh, okay. So what we do is we have to prep for 2 days.
We do
2 full days. We have to have clips.
Okay.
There is a lot of, you can do it, but it is not pull up the mic and go.
Yeah. Well, that's what we do here.
That's what we do here. But if you want to build a show that has that kind of audience support, you're going to have to put in 20, 25, 30 hours of work to prep for one episode. And you got to bring significant value, significant engagement, have a personality, have a plan.
Yeah.
You can do it. But in the beginning, guess what you got to, here's the problem, Rob. They didn't get to $1,000 donations by overnight.
They didn't?
No, it didn't start on day one. It grew into it, but they still had to do the 20 or 30 hours of prep.
Right. Way in advance of getting that.
Way in advance of getting that. They had to put in a couple of years of work and being poor. And I think there's, I'm sure Adam
I think those two are poor.
I think
that's okay.
Okay. I'm not going to say poor. They are still, but they don't have an exit plan. They turn off the mic. They have no revenue.
Right.
So they're always talking about their exit plan. What is our exit plan? And podcasters have to think about that as well. What if you have a sustainable podcast, then you better, and you're earning money. Then, and let's say you're earning $5,000 a month, and you have a regular job. Then maybe you need to go talk to an investment person and make sure you invest in some of that money so that when your voices and your, well, Rob, I'm 56. So how long do I go? Do I podcast another 10 years, 15 years?
I don't think there's any reason why you couldn't.
Potentially.
Right?
Potentially, yeah. But at some point, I may want to retire, and so if
or retire from video.
Right.
I mean, you might be able to audio podcast for the rest of your life if you want.
Someone said, Sean says, you can't replicate the no agenda formula mechanically. They have something special, and it took years to get there. Exactly. Years to get there.
That's true. Yeah. Well, and they also have extreme personalities too.
That's right.
Plays into the mix of what they do over there. Adam is a very bombastic, outgoing, kind of crazy kind of audio. He's a craftsman with his voice.
Right.
And then you have John C. Dvorak, which he is a very unique personality.
He's an old curmudgeon, was what he is.
Right. And he's handcrafted that curmudgeon-y for many years,
and it pisses Adam off, and they yell at each other once in a while on the show, and so I almost wanted to yell at you on the last show. It's like this Clubhouse stuff.
This Clubhouse, shut it down right now. Right, I'm tired of this.
But I was frustrated because of technical difficulties, not really you.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
So I think
I could see you, over there with your hands, exasperated with what you were hearing in your headphones. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You would think podcasters hanging out in Clubhouse would have.
They're at the grocery store. I've heard people like chopping onions while they're doing the show, and you hear this chop, 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 chop. Yeah.
So,
and then they start crying while they're chopping the onions.
You're going to have a variety show. That's the way to do it, right? But, I think going back to the growth thing, I think just we need to be, okay, I use this word a lot, grind.
Right.
In Hawaii, they have grinds. That's when you go grind on some food, right? You go grind. Podcasting, you got to grind. It's the frustrations. It's just like the last show. You got to pay your dues.
Right.
We
paid our dues.
You pay your dues. And last week, I just walked away from that episode. I said, forget it.
I know. I was like saying, I think we're done with this show now. I think it's taken its course.
I just grab this media file and put it in the trash can. And not only did we have crappy audio, the video recording chopped out halfway through. So that it was like, oh my God, what
well,
could
I guess
go?
When it crashes, it crashes. That's all you can say, right? Get it out of the system, get it done, get it over with, and come back and have a clean episode this week or this Saturday.
And I do have a strategy for us if we decide to go back to Clubhouse. I think one person has to be in control of the audio. So we'll talk about that when we decide if we're going to do this again.
Okay.
But growth is and there is no silver bullet to growth. There really isn't. And, not all podcasters are going to rise to stratospheric levels.
No. Well, there isn't room for everybody to rise to the top
A-
levels.
And I saw another post, someone asking, what is a hot topic? What is hot in podcasting right now? Or what is hot in the world? Because I'm going to do my show about that. And I thought, that's really the wrong way to think about it. Why do I do a tech show? Because I'm a nerd. I'm a geek.
Right.
And I'm not as techy as I used to be, but I still like to follow the tech space and look what's going on. And
Yeah.
it's a passion.
Yeah.
So
Right.
if you don't have a passion for the topic, if you just pick a topic, spin go to what's that show where they spin the wheel and it has the 100 and 200? What is that? It's Wheel of
the
Fortune.
Wheel of Fortune
So
or
let's
whatever.
just so you go to you go to the Wheel of Fortune wheel and you put business, sports, comedy, arts, and you put those all around thing, and then you spin the wheel and you land on business. Then you go over to the second wheel that's got the business topics, and you spin the wheel and say we're going to be doing finance or business, and that's not the way to pick a topic for a podcast that you're going to pour your heart and soul into.
Though that's how big companies think of it. Though.
But
I mean, the bigger media companies think of that. Well, where's the opportunities, right? I think on an individual podcaster level, it's what your passions are. What do you know about?
But they think about the show concept, and they develop the show concept, and then they go find the talent.
Right.
They find the talent that will fit and be able to do that show. It's not in reverse. They figure, okay, we're going to do this. This is the core of this show. Now, who can we get that's not going to sound like an idiot, that's an actual expert that we can pay to do this podcast?
Right.
Or who in our current stable of hosts could do a second or third podcast?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a complicated thing. I've been thinking about trying to come up with I've been working on a new podcast myself, because as you know, I used to have my own show when I was working for Spreaker, and I did this show too. So it was really a matter of, is there something that I can contribute, again, with a new show? So I've been trying to come up with something. So, it does, and I take it very seriously, and especially what's happening in the media, in the podcasting market today, is that you do have to be kind of thoughtful about what you're doing and where your passions are, and is there time? What's the production look like? I mean, how do you do it in a way that is going to be impactful? Right. I don't want to do something and have it not be impactful. So that's the key. There was a blog post that Stephen Goldstein put out I thought was kind of interesting. He kind of takes some broader numbers about that he's seen in the podcasting space. And I know that we've probably seen these, and this isn't tremendously new, but he was looking at the podcast, stats about, how many shows are in the Apple Podcasts and what's the percentage of shows that only have like one episode in them,
right?
That kind of thing. And he was astonished that there's only 26% of all the shows in Apple Podcasts have only one episode in them.
Oh, he was shocked it was that high?
Yeah.
Oh,
I know, exactly. And
where have you been, Steve?
Exactly. So, his conclusion here is it suggests a lot of people have experimented with podcasting, but not moved forward.
All right, here's my test episode. Test.
I wonder where those episodes are coming from. Where those podcasts are coming from. This is a test of all of our listeners.
I'm not buying any boat anchors anytime soon. So,
Right.
Why? Really? He was, and I bet you he would even be more surprised if he went and seen how many shows have 5 episodes.
Yeah.
Only 5.
Only 5. Right.
And I'm sure that number would grow much. I bet he would be up in the 50% range.
Right. Well, and how many shows have published a new episode in the last 90 days?
Well, according to Daniel, quite a few.
Right.
But
half.
But how many of those were just one episode? So
right.
I had someone complaining to me about the podcast awards saying, hey, how come I have to have 10 episodes? And I said, if you're a documentary series and you're doing a short series, as long as the entire series is published, you can register. But if you don't have 10 episodes, you're probably not even truly a podcaster yet.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no, we want, I could open it up to everyone if I was money hungry, but
Right.
that's not the purpose. So I think that this is hard. We've said this forever. No, everyone that's listening to the show right now, you guys are all active podcasters. You know how hard it is. You're preaching to the choir here.
Right. Well, he's also saying here too that the percentage of podcasts listened to on smart speakers rose to 4.9%.
No.
I know.
No.
He's saying
Where did he get that?
He's saying that he's pulling it from Omni Studio and Edison.
No.
I know. I didn't think that was right either.
No way.
Yeah.
No, that's wrong.
Rose, he said in here, it rose 4.9% between 2019 and 2020 is what he's saying here. Yeah, I'm not seeing it in the Lipson numbers either.
No, neither. Less than 1%.
Right. Yeah, right. So, yeah. And hopefully we'll see that number go up. And I'm not quite sure why he's seeing that number from Omni Studios. Maybe, I don't know if Omni Studios doing something different with the smart speakers and any of the other hosting platforms. I know Omni Studio works a lot with radio station podcasts. And maybe that is what we're seeing here, is that a lot of the radio stations have their content hosted on Omni Studio. And that may be where we're seeing this happen. Because, a lot of the shows on our platforms, Todd, I don't think get a lot of listens in the smart speakers.
Well,
but I do know that the radio stations get more action and online streaming and things like that through the smart speakers than a lot of podcasts get.
Right.
So that could be what that connection is. And it said here, the percent of Spotify listening on Omni's platform, so this is very focused on Omni, is up sharply, up 62% year over year. But a significant disconnect from published articles suggesting that Spotify leads Apple in consumption, which it doesn't. But we are showing on Lipson about 13% consumption of podcasts through Spotify. But it looks like Omni's only showing 11%.
Well, we're 8 or 9.
Right. And I think a lower percentage there plays into the age demo appeal, I think, of the content in Spotify. Right. So if they're primarily publishing or mostly publishing radio station podcasts, then I can see where that number would be lower, but yours is even lower than that.
Yeah.
So,
and it makes sense because if I look at my user personas, across our board, and I know where those percentages break out. Yeah, right. The content is more focused on. Well, again, it's nothing new that I've ever said here, but it's people are focused on building their brand and building their businesses and consulting and I really shouldn't say this, but more serious content types. Yeah. So it's maybe doesn't fit the genre of a Spotify listener who's maybe looking for more fun.
Yeah, right. And he also mentions in here that there's been a 68% reduction in listening to news talk formatted radio stations, according to Nielsen ratings. In the age demo 25 to 54, we're down in the AQH, that's the average quarter hour listening in 2020, was down 68%. So the talk format in radio is not doing very well. I would say that the radio formats have stayed pretty consistent in their overall listening, and I do know that the radio industry really plays up that. All right, they're really playing up the fact that they're reaching. Radio is reaching like over 90% of the U.S. population, but when you really break it down, talk radio has got hit pretty hard. As you can see in this number, where the music side is holding radio afloat right now.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, and with the loss of Rush Limbaugh, and
yeah, that's not helping.
That's not going to help. Yeah. So I think I think though what it is too, people haven't been in their cars, and I think consumption habits have changed quite a bit.
I think people are getting back in their cars now. I mean, I'm seeing, at least where I'm at here, there's a lot of people out and about these days.
Well, the traffic never really changed in my area because there's no traffic. So,
but I think what you're talking about is work commutes.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I think it's what you're talking about. Yeah, I think a lot more people are working from home. But as far as people out in their cars, it's almost like normal now.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say.
Well, and if you look, I think it really is going to pick up in June, July, August, because a lot of major companies have really kind of set the bar of when they're going to start opening back up. So if the Microsoft and Amazons and the Apples of the world saying, hey, you need to start, we've got a plan, and by September, we're going to be back in the office. I was actually shocked to see that I think it was Microsoft, said that you only will be able to work from home 14 days in a year. It was either Microsoft or Google. Somebody made.
As far as going forward, you mean?
Yeah, going forward.
From this summer forward?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, subject to, variant 82, I think we'll have the potential here for
A117, I think.
Oh, okay, whatever. Variant 89 or 168 or whatever number we're on. Okay, so.
Right.
Let's not get started. But I think we're going to have people are paying rent. They want those office spaces filled. They want that team collaboration. And I think everyone, as much as we like staying home, wants to be face to face again and get a little. First of all, look at how many. I'd like to see the statistic on how many divorces has happened over COVID, because either you hate your spouse or you absolutely. There's probably one of two things.
Well, Todd, getting a divorce in the middle of a pandemic is probably not something that you're going to want to do. So I think it's going to happen after it.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Maybe. Yeah.
Right.
And, at one time I had thought about buying commercial real estate, because it's pretty hot. And I'm like, man, that is not the business to be in, right? Well, you might be able to get some great deals, but you might just get this brick of a building and never be able to fill it.
Right, you're going to get a good deal out of it, but you're not going to be able to pay for it.
Or you pay for it and use it as your own personal storage center or something. It's So.
Yeah, no, that's true.
But so I think what we'll see is June, July, August, a lot more pickup of people, and as more people vaccinate. But I'm going to be honest with you, I think about 50% of the country is not going to vaccinate. 18 plus is available in my community now. That just rolled out like a week ago. So, and they didn't expect to be there that quick. So what that tells me is if they open it up to 18 plus, all the old people that were going to get a vaccine have gotten a vaccine. And now they say, okay, let's let everyone else get a vaccine because we got enough vaccine on supply. And, there's a whole huge percentage of people that are not going to get vaccinated. Again, I'm not here to debate the vaccine thing, but I'm just saying a lot of people are not going to get vaccinated.
Right.
So that's going to make even for more interesting, or the booster shot or whatever comes forth.
Well, there's a lot of folks that say that if only half the population gets vaccinated, supposedly the variants will just keep running around and causing trouble. So yeah. I don't
think it'll be higher than 50%.
I think the big question is whether or not the vaccine really addresses the threat of the variants.
I actually had someone tell me that they would prefer to get the Chinese vaccine that's really been built as a true vaccine instead of getting like the Moderna one that is an RNA that is actual code, so anyway, we don't need to get into that too deep, but I think there's a lot of people that, and when I heard someone say I'd rather take the Chinese vaccine, it's like, ooh, not me, ever.
Well, I kind of wonder if it's going to impact the podcasting conferences. I mean, is it going to be one of those things that the podcast organizers say that
they can't legally do that?
You can come to the event, but you need to be vaccinated?
I don't think they legally can do that. You can't ask. That's a HIPAA thing. You can't ask someone if they've been vaccinated. It's last I checked, we had laws on asking for.
Well, I think that the airlines are doing that. They're saying that you don't have to wear a mask if you get a
United States mask
and you haven't been vaccinated.
United States masks are mandatory, so you're wearing a mask whether you're vaccinated or not. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I think it's a very dangerous precedent to start having a vaccine passport. It's all about control at this point. What about personal freedoms? So anyway, let's get off this. Piss half the people off that's listening.
Yeah, I suppose there's a danger of that.
So go ahead.
He has another number in here that says 3 companies account for 90% of online ad revenue. Google, Facebook, and Amazon.
That's true.
Which makes, it raises a question of, that leaves what, only 10% for advertising in the podcasting side? Is that what that means?
Well, I think they control it. Doesn't mean that it's.
Or does that mean that Google, Facebook, and Amazon are going to be the ones that ultimately wind up getting into podcast advertising?
We'll see. It's not a big enough number. It's a rounding error still. $1 billion in advertising is a rounding error compared to TV, radio, print, digital banners. So, we're a rounding. Maybe we're not a rounding error. Maybe we're a percent. I don't know what the global advertising. What is the? Let me Google this.
We're supposed to cross 1 billion this year.
So annual global advertising spend. Let me look at that.
And it looks like the Dave Ramsey show passed 1 billion downloads in March.
So spending on digital advertising worldwide amounted to $325 billion. So if we're not at 1 billion.
I think we're supposed to cross that line.
Well, okay, let's say we're at 1 billion. We're still 0.3%. 0.33% of global ad spend.
Right.
So we're a rounding error. So there's lots of room to grow.
Right.
But, Google, with their policy now on changing Chrome and cookies, a lot of people are saying that the cookie tracking situation where Google's not going to allow certain cookie tracking is directly related and could be antitrust stuff for advertising. So before this is all over, I'm sure there's going to be, RICO antitrust type of stuff that happens from the Department of Justice, maybe. Here this last week, this will kind of blow you away. In Arizona, they were going to vote on a, how Apple and Google take a percentage of revenue from app sales. I think Apple takes 30% as a maximum amount. Well, they were trying to decouple that, and Google, according to this news article I read, went in and hired every lobbyist in the state of Arizona, and used them to persuade the Arizona legislature to not take up this legislation. And you can just absolutely know what happened. It basically didn't go anywhere. The lobbyists had their success. So when you have a company with that much power that is trying to protect a huge amount of revenue coming into their coffers, they're not going to go down without a fight. But with that said, I think there's enough people doing advertising now in the podcasting space that there's no reason why that number shouldn't go up to 2, 3, 4 billion. But as you and I both know, it's not going to be on ad load in the top 3% of shows. You're going to have a trickle down and monetize the rest of the stack. The other 35% though on advertising.
Mm-hmm. Hey Todd, did you see this this announcement from AudioBurst talking about that they're now going to make podcasts available to any app that wants it?
Well, that's curious. I'm going to have to go back and read that because we've worked with AudioBurst for a while.
Yeah.
I know they have a premium product.
Yeah.
So how are they going to make? They're going to make podcast snippets available. Right. I think is what they're going to provide.
Yeah. That's the impression that I've gotten here too, and I think it's this recognition that I think podcast content is going to get integrated into more and more vertical content genre experiences. It's going to ride along with text. It's going to ride along with video. It's going to ride along with radio more in these listening apps.
Why wouldn't podcast snippets be included in Apple News Bites? Those types of places.
Right. So I guess if it's done in a way that that promotes podcasts, it promotes getting people into the longer versions. I think there's probably a place for it, and I think as we move into, I think the next big thing that's coming after we've saturated all the music streaming platforms around the world, I know I've said this on the show before, but is that we're going to see the genres in podcasting get integrated into genre-specific content apps out there. And I think we're starting to see that happen more and more. I think we're seeing it around women, which isn't really a genre. It's just more of a segmenting of the content, right? Apps that are targeted towards a particular set of users that have an interest in or having interest in collaboration. I think that's the next big thing after saturation of the music streaming platforms.
Going back to the AudioBurst thing, so those of you that don't know,
it's part of that, right?
AudioBurst is designed to be able to intelligently, through whatever they're calling their AI, find snippets and automatically promote those snippets into the ecosphere. You can also go in, just like you would do on Headliner, you can go into AudioBurst, pick your snippets, and use those for social promotion because you're going to know the segments that are probably going to resonate the most, and you're able to basically break those segments out. So I've always go ahead.
Plus, they're also a transcription platform,
right?
Too.
And they're transcription, So again, if you have an AudioBurst account, you can sign up for one independently. You don't have to be a Blueberry customer to do this. We just automate it for you with the sign up if you're hosting with us. They email you a transcript immediately following every episode. That's one of the bonuses of having an AudioBurst account. But the real power is not in just the transcript. It's all this other. They were doing audio snippets long before Headliner was, so they were really first.
Right.
And a lot of podcasters. But here's the thing, Rob. It's work. You got to go in there. You got to find this. You got to find the snippet, the time that you want to share. You got to, you got to go through the process. So that's incumbent upon the podcaster to break some snippets out to help promote their show on social.
Right.
So,
though I am curious about this announcement, though. It says AudioBurst announces the launch of its platform for apps, the world's first podcast feed for mobile apps, while providing it a stepping stone of sorts to reoccurring revenue for thousands of app developers looking to increase app monetization. It also offers consumers personalized up to the minute audio content
Right.
within their favorite apps. Now, the question that I have for this is, who is the content providers for this, and how are they selecting that? And if there's monetization linked up with that, how is the content creator being taken into account with this?
They're not.
Well, that's a question mark.
So that's part of the thing. You sign up for AudioBurst, you're getting distribution and promotion,
Right.
and they have to monetize to pay for this.
Right.
You get promotion to build your audience. So
Okay.
that's my understanding. But
Okay.
then again, if you're a rock star, maybe they have special relationships with those folks. But I think for the average podcaster, it's about, being discovered and gaining new listeners. And to me, that's a worthwhile trade-off.
Right. It also says here, the AudioBurst platform for apps capitalizes on the monumental shift in consumer behavior away from visual content on screens towards audio content to layer podcasts, talk radio, and more into apps that don't currently deliver audio content.
Right. So they're basically making this library of content available.
Right. From travel to navigation apps to casual games, fitness, music, shopping, and more, audio content is a perfect accompanying layer for apps interested in boosting their user engagement and retention. Right.
Yep. So I think it's, then again, so we have to look at that implementation and find out what kind of attribution is being made as well. As if a clip is sound is something I said, this is from the Geek News Central or New Media Show podcast at newmediashow.com. Do they have that in there? I don't know. So that's, it's okay to have a clip, but there has to be some sort of attribution back to the content versus just something someone hears and they have no idea where the heck it came from. So it's a good question. Maybe we'll go back and ask the AudioBurst team that.
Yeah, it also says here, AudioBurst AI technology, that's the artificial intelligence technology, listens to, analyzes, and indexes hundreds of millions of minutes of audio content, including podcast, radio, and more. This customized source of content is segmented to short audio clips or bursts that are then aggregated into playlists.
Yep.
So that's
they're just taking what's been available via AudioBurst and their partners, which have been largely CarPlay and other venues like that, and making it into a commoditized product that app developers can use to feed this insatiable demand for information and content. Hey, Douglas Reed in the chat room says, apparently Vegas is playing around with a vaccine passport app. Might make NAB interesting. Mike says that Buzzsprout says Spotify downloads beat Apple on Buzzsprout last month. I that to me is mind-boggling. It
also speaks to the content composition on Buzzsprout as opposed to Lipson, Blueberry, Omni, all these, right?
Yeah,
I think is what it speaks to.
That's to me is mind-boggling that it could be. That could be more than 50% of. That's just I don't.
Or more than 60% if it's bigger than Apple, right?
Yeah. Apple for us has been running 48, 49, 50%.
What if Spotify is the only place that some of those podcasters are submitting their show to?
Potentially. Because let's be frank, a lot of podcasters, I'm running into a lot of podcasters now that, I can be on Apple?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've seen it in the past too. People were just rabid about getting into Spotify. They could care less about anything else.
That's right.
Which does raise the question, are many of the shows on Buzzsprout just submitting to Spotify because they want to be in the cool platform, right? I don't know.
Okay. Is Spotify where the cool kids hang out?
I guess so, Todd. That's not where we're hanging out. But that's okay.
We're old.
So I guess we're not the cool kids anymore.
We're old.
Yeah. So Dan Meisner from Pacific Content He's up in Toronto, I
Yep.
believe, is where Dan is. He says, Godcasts are no longer the biggest category in Apple Podcasts. Todd, did you know that?
Really?
Really?
So what
Yeah.
category is number one?
He says that he's discovered that education, society, culture, and arts are now the top three, with religion and spirituality the fourth. Thought that was it.
Oh,
Now
huh.
that's now is that see what he's not clear here is that the a breakdown based on listening or is it a breakdown on the number of shows?
Well, let me load my little pile here.
Because I
And
believe that if you look at it as a breakdown on listening, the number of downloads, I think that's probably accurate. But if you're talking about the number of shows,
well, isn't this interesting? So I have my dashboard and I can load up the categories. And I show, okay, here's our categories: arts, business, and we don't break it down as deep as Apple Podcast does on our directory at Blueberry. Arts,
right?
business, comedy, culture and travel, which is one category: education, entertainment, hobbies and gaming, general, lifestyle and LGBTQ, music, religion, sports and recreation, tech, health and science, news and politics, kids and family, government, history, fiction, and true crime. So right now, culture and travel in our directory is number one. Uh,
In in number of shows or
in the
downloads?
number of programs, yes.
Number. Okay.
By 12,000 over religion. And religion is number two.
Okay.
What's number three? I should pull this out, put it in a spreadsheet. Um, education is third. Arts is fourth. So yeah, that's where my top four are. Our religion is number. Okay, so let me go over and say culture and travel number one, religion number two.
So religion has dropped then.
It has dropped.
Okay.
Education number three, arts number four, for us.
Right.
So, but the spread between arts and the number one category of culture and travel is only 33,000 programs. That's the spread. And once you get past, let's see here, arts, then it's like business and comedy are head and head. Who else is over 100,000? And then everything else is below the 100,000 mark. True crime, 2,300. Fiction, 7,500. History, 8,400.
Mhm. Yeah. So this breakdown that Dan put out says in 2020, religion and spirituality was the most crowded top level category, followed by society and culture.
Huh.
Now, spring 2021, education takes the top spot, just barely edging out society and culture. Boy, this is like a
Yeah.
play-by-play at a horse race or something. Um, and so yeah, so
The
education is number one now.
the difference between, well, for me it's not, but the difference between culture and travel, and maybe how it's labeled here, because I have culture and travel as a combined category. Cult, the
Yeah, but
spread
is society in there? Society, culture, and
uh,
travel, is it all the
well,
same?
we call it culture. We don't have anything that says society. So the split between culture and travel, which is number one in my boat, the education is 27,000 is the split there. But the split between culture and travel and religion is only 12,000. So again, I think this is very non-scientific because maybe we're not apples and oranges here, because
Right.
again, I'm not running on the new Apple podcast categories in my system. I have these other top levels, but I'm the only person or the only director that has LGBTQ broke out, and we've got about 1,600 shows that are lifestyle and LGBTQ.
Well, so what I'm talking about here is the Apple podcast
I know.
categories.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
our
right.
categories top level. Well, we have all the top level Apple categories in our
Right.
directory:
Right.
true
Okay.
crime, fiction, history, government, kids and family, news and politics. Yeah.
So it says that the least crowded categories include several sports categories. Volleyball,
Oh,
swimming, and rugby are the three that are the least. And also near the bottom of the list are mathematics and crafts.
well,
So
I think we
those
could.
aren't surprises. Those
Yeah.
aren't
How
surprises.
do you teach math on a audio program? You
Well,
need a
well,
VAT
that's
board.
not exactly the most
Woohoo!
interesting.
Yeah, I would listen to a math show. The only time I'd listen to a math show if I was taking some refresher class or something and needed some
Right.
math skills.
Right.
I
Right.
know I know there's some people out there that just love the numbers.
That's right. Well, I guess if you had a charismatic host that could present it in a way, kind of like
Right.
a professor that is really good at making math fun,
Yeah.
you could probably do something with it. But yeah.
Well,
But I thought,
it is interesting that religion has dropped, and let's think about why. Well, with COVID, everything's been virtual, so maybe they're doing. At least I think it's virtual. I don't know. Maybe they're just doing live streaming, live video streaming of services versus doing podcast. So the focus, because everyone's been out of the church, hasn't been able to go in. Maybe there's not a focus on doing podcast right now because
mhm. Yeah, they're
potentially,
trying to do it live versus on demand,
yeah.
right?
But religion is still a huge category. It's over 150,000 shows, so it's still big. But it is interesting culture and society. What would those shows? What does it make up of those types of shows?
It can be entertainment.
Well,
Could be
there's an
in that category too,
entertainment
right?
there's an
It can
entertainment
also,
category though.
well, that's true. And then it's got to be like psychology. It's got to be like self-help
Oh,
type of stuff. I guess health and fitness would kind of live in that world too. But yeah, I think it's more like, I think maybe people looking for psychological support and help. Is comedy's got its own category, so it must be more like psychology podcasts,
yeah.
ones that are talking about culture from the standpoint of, I'm not sure, fashion, who knows,
So
who
here's the
knows.
categories that have six figures in actual number of programs: arts, business, comedy, culture and travel,
Right,
education, religion. Those are the only categories that break six figures.
right.
With the lowest one in six, and there's a huge, I mean, massive. If I look at, let's see, for me, comedy is the lowest six-figure number. The next one down is like there's like a 40,000 spread. Health and science is the next, over 100,000 down to a five-figure program number. So there's a huge spread. So really, where the opportunities are, in my opinion, is true crime, fiction, history.
Yeah, those are
Uh,
exactly where we're seeing the uptick in content creation right
yeah,
now. It's
that's
in
where
those categories.
that's where the
Right,
opportunity is,
right.
and there's a huge opportunity for people doing lifestyle and LGBTQ. So
So
again, now here's the thing about us is Apple doesn't have a LGBTQ category. So Blueberry has a lifestyle and LGBTQ category that has always been separated and from the norm. So there's probably more LGBT and lifestyle programs out there. They're probably intermixed in these other categories.
in the culture and
Yeah,
yeah, that kind of stuff. Right.
potentially.
So it says here that the category that has the most episodes per podcast is in the religion and spirituality
Oh, of
category.
course.
Judaism is what it breaks out, has the highest number of average episodes. per podcast.
I know that there's a lot of religious, okay, especially on the Jewish side. I know that a lot of those, there's a lot of work being done there, and a lot of those programs are fed into not only Judaism but Christian, Muslim. A lot of those are being fed into platforms that are in the prison system,
Oh,
and they're matter of fact, we've worked with a company that puts those podcasts into the prison system through a special intake system, so so that they have access to them on devices and stuff. So I would suspect there's probably a lot of effort by those groups to feed, not only that content there, but other places as well. So,
right.
so maybe
And
that's
then
why it could be a
just
factor.
in general, the religion and spirituality, all categories, tends to be very high in the number of episodes per show.
Well, they have
Right.
at least one service a week, and
Right.
some churches have
Right.
2, 3 Bible study. Of course, they are going to
Right.
be some content making machines.
Machines, right. And then the next one on the list is sports
That
around
makes sense.
baseball.
That makes sense.
Baseball has the most episodes on average per podcast.
There's more.
And,
Yeah.
and the other one is basketball.
Because in baseball they're playing 2, 3 games a week,
Right.
where football is once a week. And what was the other one in sports?
Basketball.
Basketball, I think, is on a schedule of a couple of games a week. So they're not just playing once a week. So it makes sense that, just logically it makes sense.
And then the overall category of sports, all sports ranks pretty high.
Yeah, I would think
like
so.
in the top 3. And then obviously news and daily news programs rank pretty high on that.
Yep.
Sports is another one. Soccer, science and natural sciences ranks pretty high.
Wow, that's interesting.
News and politics, I guess that makes sense.
That should be like one category. Yep.
Yeah, and a religion and spirituality shows up again. News shows up again. Health and fitness, and nutrition and music conversations.
Boy, there's a lot of conversation going on in the space about music. My goodness.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to talk about. It looks like business and then sports, kids, family, health, fitness, education. It falls off.
But here's the funny part, Rob. You've been talking about these high episode numbers. How come culture and society is not in those high episode numbers? If they have the most number of shows, then they're not producing much content.
Right. It's toward the bottom of the list.
Wow. See, that's crazy. It's the number one category, but it has the least density. But maybe because it is
sporadic in their content production.
Well, maybe because there's so many, it just automatically drives down there.
Right. Yeah, I see health and fitness around medicine has more content creation. Comedy is fairly low. Maybe that gets back to sporadic publishing. Looks like society and culture around personal journals category. Fiction also tends to be low.
Yeah, because there's a lot of work.
Right.
Most of those folks are doing series. They're doing 6 or 7 episodes on a series, and
so I guess it makes sense when you think about the totality and how frequently that category is creating content. It makes sense that they would have more episodes.
Yeah.
Right.
Look at my news show twice a week.
Right.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah.
This show twice a week. Bada bing, bada boom. It's really kind of news.
Right. It grows. Yeah. And it grows reasonably fast. I mean, we're growing faster in our episode numbers than we ever have because we're doing twice a week.
Right.
So, anyway.
And if you stay on pretty much on track, you can do 100 episodes a year when you're doing two a week. And it's with if you missed here and there, it's about an average of about 100 a year.
Right.
So
I hope that this episode this week is there's been a little more focus. I mean, I definitely feel like we've been more focused
Oh
on
yeah, not distracted.
what we've been presenting and talking about. That hopefully has a little more value to people in this.
I'm going to call this episode "Back on Track."
Back on track. Back to the usual.
Back on track. And then we'll gently, if we do some Clubhouse things, maybe we should just,
do a separate thing.
I can't do 3 shows a week, Rob. I'm already stretched.
Can't? Oh, okay.
I have a company to run and build. You.
Yeah.
And I know you just you live breathe podcasting 24 hours a day. Sometimes I have to walk away for a little bit.
Right. Sunday? You want to do it on Sunday, Tom?
And no. Yeah, at some point maybe even go back to 1 show a week. We'll see, but anyway, play it by ear.
Yeah. So I think we probably occupied people's attention for long enough this week. What do you think?
Yep, I think so, because I'm running out of stuff to talk about.
You are?
Yeah.
Oh, I can always find some.
I know you can.
Keep going.
Well, that there in itself, I think you guys are going to be much happier with this episode than you were. Please let us know. I think you probably thought we're crazy for doing what we have done, but I hope you haven't unsubscribed. And if you have and you're back because you saw the show title, Back on Track, then please resubscribe. We'll keep you entertained one way or the other. So newmediashow.com.
That's part of the adventure of this show. Is I think we do want to push the envelope at times and try something new. This whole trend around social audio has got a lot of people spun up and asking a lot of questions about what the future of these social platforms are in comparison to podcasting. And I'm definitely, after doing this, I can see it a little clearer now. And after playing around with the Riverside chat thing, I can kind of see it's going to be a bumpy road, or Fireside Chat.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bumpy road
for
podcasting's integration in with these platforms.
Well, that means that we're good. We're safe. It's not the big disruptor.
I am concerned about people's time, though. If they're listening to Clubhouse sessions, that's maybe taking them away from listening to podcasts, though.
Rob,
so is it going to
all the Android users can't listen to Clubhouse sessions because they're not going to have a Clubhouse app or an Android app ready until the summer. So,
well, I heard it's coming in May, so that's just like next month.
We'll hold our breath.
Yeah.
Okay, Todd@blueberry.com, BLUBRRY.com is my email address. @Geek News on Twitter.
I can be reached at Rob Greenlee on Twitter as well. You can send me an email if you want to, robg@lipson.com. Happy to hear from you, and we can talk. And if you have any little tips you want to share with us, we're all ears. Don't just send them all to James.
Yeah, there you go. Send us your little tidbits and secrets. We're very good at covering sources, especially if you've got something super juicy to share.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
We haven't had no juicy stuff lately. No secrets that we've had NDA stuff, but that doesn't count.
Right.
But anyway, I think I'm out from under all my NDAs at the moment, which is kind of cool. So
yeah. Well, now you can talk about anything you want to.
Yeah,
Todd.
And I am going to meet with. I do have a personal meeting set up with Lindsay over at Pandora. I'm going to talk to him about what's going on. Maybe I can talk him to coming on the show.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to the New Media Show today. We're back on track, and we'll be back with you at Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. But anyway, everybody take care. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.